Most landlords think a rental listing succeeds or fails over the course of a few weeks. I don't think that's true at all. In New York City, the first 72 hours after a listing goes live are probably the most important 72 hours in the entire leasing process. That window can determine how many leads you get, how fast you can schedule tours, how many applications come in, what the interest looks like, how much rent you can actually achieve, and how long the apartment's going to sit vacant. The mistake that most owners make is really simple. They treat the listing launch as an administrative task, which is like uploading the photos, writing a quick description, you pick a price, you push it live, and then you wait for leads to come in. But a real good rental listing should not be treated like a passive post. It should be treated like a product launch. Because when a listing goes live, the market is judging it immediately. Renters, platforms, and their algorithms start judging the listing. And your leasing funnel starts producing signals immediately. So the question is whether you're paying enough attention to those signals to act. And that's why when a listing first goes live, it's fresh, it's new, and it has the best chance of appearing in front of active renters who are searching right now. And renters in New York are not casually browsing the same way somebody might browse for furniture or clothes, although it is fun. A lot of people are under real time pressure, right? Their lease is ending, maybe they're starting a new job, they're moving in with a roommate, or they're breaking up with an old roommate or girlfriend. And they might need to be in a specific neighborhood by a specific date. That means that the active renter pool is compressed. So people who are looking, comparing, clicking, messaging, and scheduling quickly. So when your listing goes live, you're not just publishing information, you're stepping into a live demand environment with a real market. And that initial burst of attention is incredibly valuable because it gives you the clearest market signal that you're ever going to get. If the listing is priced correctly and presented well, easy to tour and respond and ask questions to, you should see top of funnel lead velocity. And if it's not getting attention early, that's the market telling you something. The problem is that most brokers, owners, property managers, landlords wait too long to listen to the market. If you wait 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you might wake up and say, hey, why aren't people renting my apartment? The market probably answered that question in the first 3 days, maybe in the first 8 days on the tail end. So the economics of vacancy burn. This is not a marketing issue. This is an economic issue. Every day a unit sits vacant, the owner is losing money. Simple example, if an apartment rents for $4,000 a month, that's about $150 per day in lost rent. If you add utilities, carrying costs, concessions, paid listing fees, staff time, and most importantly, opportunity cost, time once spent can't be recovered, right? So the owner says, I want to hold out for another $100 a month. The right question is really, how many vacancy days are you willing to burn to get that? Because if you hold out for another $100 a month, that's $1,200 a year. And if the unit sits vacant for 10 days at $4,000 a month, you just lost more than that. You might win a rent negotiation, but you're losing on economics. And that's why the launch strategy is so important. A unit that leases at the right market price in 14 days can outperform the same unit that's leased slightly above market in, let's say, 35 days. A lot of people focus on the face rent, which is totally fine, and it's a reasonable strategy if you're going for a refinance or a sale of the building in the next 12 to 24 months. But real operators like me like to focus on net outcome. So the rent achieved matters, days vacant matter, lead quality matters, how fast you're getting back to those leads matter, and the certainty that those responses are happening also matters. The first 72 hours are where all of those things start to show up. So you need to be paying attention. So what can go wrong during a listing launch? Here's the most common mistake that I see. There are 5 of them or 6 of them. Number 1, launching before the apartment's actually ready. And this is huge and obvious, right? Listing goes live, leads start coming in, and then the broker has to respond, it's not ready. We're still cleaning, we're waiting on repairs, we can show it next week. That is a completely wasted launch. You took the best visibility window and used it before you were ready to convert on that demand. Number 2 is quite obvious as well. Weak photos and marketing assets, including videos and floor plans. So in rentals, photos, videos, it's not decoration. These are conversion assets. This is how we sell properties, right? If the photos are dark or incomplete or awkward or they're missing rooms or something, renters can move on. They're not going to tell you that your listing photos suck, right? They're just not going to inquire. The meta for renting and selling apartments is I want a client to feel like they've been to the building before they get to the building, right? And in New York, we have plenty of people that come from out of town. They never step foot in the apartment or the neighborhood before they actually move in. And I've done plenty of those deals like that. So your marketing assets need to be tight. Number 3 is generic listing copy. So beautiful apartment in a great location doesn't really do much. It's not really important information. People already know where the apartment is, right? So renters want specifics. What floor is it on? Is there an elevator? How much light does it get? Is there a train nearby? Is there laundry, a dishwasher? What utilities are included? Is it rent stabilized? Is it free market? Is there a doorman or pets allowed? Specificity creates confidence, and vagueness creates friction. Same thing with listing photos, right? If it's not the real apartment that you're advertising, you better tell somebody that before they get there. Number 4 is aspirational pricing. When an owner or property manager says, let's try it high and see what happens, that sounds harmless, but it's not harmless if it kills the first wave of demand, right? If you overprice at launch and the renter engagement is weak, the listing starts aging before you have any real momentum. And then you're not just correcting the price, you're correcting a stale listing. Now, I think that price reductions, adding concessions, different marketing is a reasonable way to update a listing and get it in front of everybody's eyeballs and inboxes. But that's after you've burned vacancy days, right? So number 5 is slow response time. And this might be the most overlooked part by property managers and owners. A renter who inquires today is probably inquiring at 10 or 15 other apartments today as well. So if you respond, or if you or your broker responds 4 hours later, you might just be out of the consideration. They might have had a tour schedule booked up for the day, right? So speed is not just customer service. Speed is conversion, and it's the start of a conversation. And during the first 72 hours, slow response is especially expensive because it happens when the most motivated renters are reaching out. Number 6 is showing friction. If the only available showing window is, let's say, Tuesday between 2 and 4, you're eliminating a huge portion of the market. The more friction you create between inquiry and tour, the more leads you lose. So during launch, you want the widest reasonable showing availability that you and your team can support. What I do, the Botway meta, is to send somebody a tour link to schedule immediately. That's before I even ask any qualifying questions. People often don't respond to my questions. They'll just click on the schedule a tour link. And then we implement our security system of verified photo ID, selfie, social security number, making sure people are who they say they are. But we want to activate, all of this goes back to top of funnel. We want to activate as many interested people as possible, right? So, what's the right way to launch a rental listing? The better way to think about a listing launch is in a sequence. Everybody's got to have a plan, right? So it's not a post, it's a sequence. So step one, prepare the apartment. That means turnover's done, repairs, cleaning, access is straightened out, keys are changed if they need to be, there's a lockbox or a smart lock, and clear showing instructions. The unit should be ready to show before the first listing goes live. And if we're talking about 24 hours, not a huge deal, but not ideal. Step two is prepare the media and the marketing assets. So great photos, floor plan, video, an accurate amenity list, a description that answers the questions that all renters ask. And then step three is to calibrate your pricing. So with Botway, you can use our intelligence platform that looks at not only historical market data going back a year, but also all relevant on-market comps as well. But if you're doing it yourself, you want to look at comparable active listings, recent rentals in your own building, if there's any available. You want to look at the building and the neighborhood. You want to look at the seasonality of what the market looks like now versus last year, and that's something that I focus on as well. You want to look at obviously concessions and days on market. The key here, and it's difficult for owners to do this because they're usually emotionally invested in their property, but you want to be objective about where your property fits within the broader market. Not only what's on market, but what has traded recently. So the goal with pricing, I hate to say it, is not to pick the highest imaginable number. It's to pick the price that creates qualified demand quickly and gets the unit rented efficiently. Step four is to synchronize distribution. The listing should go live cleanly across all platforms that matter. So in New York City, that's StreetEasy, Zillow, Apartments.com, the MLS, Rebney, and whatever channels are relevant for that unit and owner. We could talk about 50 here, including direct outreach to people that have previously inquired about the building, the listing, or the unit type. So you don't want a staggered, messy launch where one platform has old pricing and another one has missing photos and a third has incomplete details. Everything needs to be cohesive and messaging, giving the same messaging to the market, right? Step five is to respond to every lead immediately. So when a lead comes in, the response should be fast, accurate, and useful. A lot of people just say, is this available? So you should obviously answer that question, but the renter should get what they need to take the next step. Is it available? When is it available? How can I view it? What are the requirements to lease? What's the application process look like? The fees that are associated, move-in timing, and other key unit details and building details and neighborhood details, right? People say real estate is all about location, location, location. If your listing description and your responses don't highlight the neighborhood and the unit and the building that it's in, you're not selling as well as you could. Step six is to maximize tour conversion. Again, a lead is not the goal. A tour is the next conversion event. You want them to move the most serious renters from initial inquiry to scheduled showing as quickly as possible. So again, I send a schedule a tour link immediately, even before qualification, because my tour link qualifies people further. And I'm totally fine if the apartment is available in April and they don't want to move until August. We might have something coming up either in the building or the portfolio. Um, I don't personally care if people want to see an apartment when it might not be perfect for them because they might come around next year. It's no sweat off of my back or the owners to let as many people into the apartment as possible, right? As long as they're verified and qualified and everything like that, of course. So, step 7 is to measure at the 72-hour checkpoint. So, after 72 hours, you should know how many leads came in, were people qualified, how fast did we respond, how many tours were scheduled, how many tours actually happened, and what feedback did renters give about the unit. Did anybody apply? If not, why not? That is the rhythm that you want to take every 72 hours after initial inquiry, and then again at day 8, because if you have enough statistical information at day 8 to make a determination of whether or not you should change the price or the photos. If something is not working, you'll know by day 8. So you need to launch, measure, diagnose, and adjust. Again, not emotionally, operationally. Think like an operator. Think objectively. So how do you read these market signals? In the first 72 hours, that will give you a signal, but you have to know how to read it, of course. So if you're getting strong lead volume, strong tour conversion, the listing is probably properly priced and presented well. In that case, you can push. You can call for bids. If you get multiple people that are interested, you can start a little bidding war or just choose the best applicants that you get. But you need to keep the response times fast, showing availability open until a lease is signed and payment has been sent. And you need to create urgency with accurate information. And most importantly, you need to move qualified applicants through this leasing process. So if you're getting, for example, clicks or inquiries, let's say, and saves, but no tours, there's a conversion problem. Maybe the response time is slow or the showing times are too limited. Maybe renters are asking questions that the listing should have answered up front, resulting in back and forth that's, I think, is unnecessary. Or maybe the price is close, but it's not compelling enough to motivate somebody to actually tour the apartment or make an offer. So if you're getting low inquiry volume, that's way more serious. That just means something is off. Usually one of these 3 things. The price is wrong, the marketing assets are weak, or the listing is not getting enough visibility. And if all 3 are weak, the listing is in trouble. Remember, it only takes one person to rent an apartment. So I've had 3 inquiries over 15 days and signed a lease. That's possible, but it's definitely not ideal, and it's not how you get the highest price possible or the best tenant, of course. The mistake is waiting too long. You don't want to wait until day 18 to admit that it was what was obvious on day 3 or day 8. If the market is not responding to your listing, you need to adjust quickly, especially with rentals. And sometimes an audit that I would do would be price or concessions first. You might need to take better photos or video. You can rewrite the listing. That's free, right? You could expand showing, access, hours, dates, times. And sometimes it means advertising where you haven't been in the past. So that includes syndication issues. You got to make sure that you're listed everywhere. Again, StreetEasy for New York City, StreetEasy, Zillow, Apartments.com. You could consider buying Google ads or Facebook ads. Or Instagram ads or TikTok ads. There's, like I said before, a plethora of places that you could advertise an apartment for rent. Sometimes you need to get creative, especially when you have a lot of apartments available, like in a new development lease up. But most importantly, you need a system that catches this problem early on. So why are stale listings so dangerous? A stale listing to the outside market has a psychological problem. Renters can see days on market. They may not say it out loud, although some do, but they notice. If a listing has been sitting for a few weeks, renters start to wonder, why hasn't anybody taken it? Is it overpriced? Is there something wrong with the apartment or the building or the neighborhood? Maybe the landlord is difficult at approving applications. Do the marketing assets make it look too nice? Is it actually worse in person? Or is the building bad? Does it smell bad? Is the neighborhood bad? The perception is reality, right? It's important to think about that in sales. And perception can become self-fulfilling. So the same apartment that felt exciting on day 2 can feel suspicious on day 22 to the open market. And that's why you don't want to waste this freshness window, because you can't recreate it later. Yes, you can reduce the price or add some concessions. You can update photos. Sure, you can. There are other ways to relaunch a listing, but smart tenants can usually see through that. The original moment when a listing hits the market, it's fresh and it's hard to get back. The cleanest strategy is to launch correctly the first time, obviously. So what does Botway do differently than everybody else? I'm not saying that nobody else does what I just said or I'm about to say, but how do I do this? This is exactly why I built Botway. These first 72 hours, first 8 days, I'm not just trying to list an apartment and market an apartment. I'm trying to operate the leasing funnel soup to nuts with more speed, more visibility, and accountability to my clients, the owners, the property managers. When I take on a listing, I think about the launch, again, before the listing goes live. That means pricing, media assets, copy, syndication, access, lead response, showings, applications, and owner visibility are all coordinated and ready to go in the first 72 hours. The goal is simple. Don't waste the first 72 hours. So here's what Botway does. First, we help prepare the listing for launch. That includes review of pricing and approval with the owner, listing copy that's fantastic and answers all of the questions that I've said before, photos or media coordination where needed. Either a professional is taking these photos or I'm personally taking these photos, and making sure that the unit details, the building, and the neighborhood details are all clear before renters start asking questions. And remember, I'm putting all of this into a knowledge base that you can see, so that tenants, when they inquire, Botway is going to respond to them immediately based off of this knowledge base. So after everything is set up, we syndicate and distribute the listing. Again, in accordance with the owner's approval of where we're advertising and how much we're spending to doing that advertising. The listing, at a high level, it needs to be visible where renters are actually searching, with consistent information across every platform. Third, we respond to leads immediately. That's one of the major pillars of why I built Botway. Renters don't want to wait hours for basic information. Botway is specifically designed around fast response, clear answers, and moving serious renters towards the next step of the funnel. Fourth, we reduce showing friction. A lot of leasing dies in the gap of I'm interested and when can I see it? What I do is focus on making that path easier, whether that means scheduling, self-tour coordination, access workflows to get people actually in the door, and then structured follow-up. Hey, are you touring? Why didn't you schedule a tour? When are you available? And then obviously following up with an application and a survey after the tour has happened. And then we follow up after that. So fifth, you gotta track the funnel. So this is the part owners usually don't see. They don't usually see how many leads come in or how many tours were scheduled, how many people actually showed up, what feedback they gave, if people apply, and just exactly where are we losing people. That's the difference between guessing and operating. A lot of owners will do a 1 week check-in with their broker or the property manager to see what's happening. We've been talking about this the whole video. The first 72 hours are when you need to make the decision. If you wait until day 7, okay, no problem. It's not the most ideal, but it's okay. So you want to flag problems early. If a listing is not producing enough leads, that's a signal. If leads are coming in but tours aren't happening, that's a different signal. If tours are happening and nobody is applying, again, it's another signal. Each problem has a different fix. My job is to make sure those issues are visible early enough to do something about them before it affects your listing and your bottom line. Because by the time a vacancy has dragged on for a month, the owner has already paid for that delay, not only in lost rent, but also in utilities, taxes, fees, marketing, everything like that. So the broader point is leasing should not be managed by vibes. You have to have an operator mindset. It should be managed like an operating system. Every listing is a sales process that has a funnel. Visibility of an apartment turns into leads. Leads turn into tours. Tours turn into applications. Applications turn into leases. That's the leasing funnel. If the unit is not leasing, something is breaking in that chain. The question that I'm here to answer is where? And traditional leasing often hides that. The owner might hear traffic is slow, the market is soft, or we need more time, or we're getting some interest. That's not quantifiable at all. That's not enough to make an intelligent decision by. Owners need to know what's actually happening. Is the market rejecting the price? Are renters not clicking on the listing? Are they clicking on the listing but not inquiring? Are they inquiring but not touring? Touring but not applying, et cetera, et cetera. And each of those, again, are different problems. And different problems require different actions, right? That's the Botway philosophy. If I give you more data and you know that I'm responding immediately, you know that the execution and the follow-up is clean and it's happening, and you have visibility into what's happening and when it's happening. And of course, if it costs a lot less than other brokers, that is the Botway. So if you're a landlord or an operator, property manager, asset manager, here's the takeaway. You don't need to hire me. You need to have a process in place that you can see, that you can watch, that you actually know is happening. And you don't treat a listing going live as the beginning of a waiting period, God forbid. Treat it as the beginning of a high intensity launch window, a high intensity marketing window. The first 72 hours matter. So in sum, you have to have the unit ready. You have to price it correctly, use strong photos and videos and marketing assets. You have to write specific copy for the specific unit and building and neighborhood that it's in. You need to market it everywhere and syndicate the listing everywhere possible. You need to respond immediately, but you could respond fast. Okay, that's all right as well. You need to make access and touring easy. You need to track the entire leasing funnel and the KPIs. And then once you see a pattern, you can adjust it quickly, because vacancy is expensive. And in leasing, delay does not just cost time, it costs rent. So at Botway, I built our model around that entire idea. Launch with precision, respond with speed, track everything, but really track what matters, and fix problems before vacancy compounds. That is how modern leasing should work.